All right, read tonight.
Wait a minute. 1, 2, 3.
When people talk about the most popular TV shows of all time, The Simpsons always comes to mind. This animated sitcom first aired in 1989 and has been running for decades, making it the longest-running cartoon series in history. At first, it was seen as just a funny family show about Homer, Marge, Bart, Lisa, and Maggie living in the fictional town of Springfield. But as the years went by, fans and critics began to notice something strange about it. Many jokes and storylines that seemed silly at the time later turned out to match real-world events. Viewers were shocked to see that the show had predicted things like Donald Trump becoming president, the invention of smartwatches, and even international scandals. Over the years, these predictions became such a big part of the show's reputation that people now watch new episodes looking for clues about the future. Some believe it is just coincidence mixed with smart writing, while others are convinced something deeper is going on. As we move closer to 2026, fans have started paying special attention to episodes that seem to point toward coming events. Some of these predictions are lighthearted, while others are dark and unsettling, hinting at problems with technology, politics, or even the environment. Whether you believe The Simpsons can really see the future or not, the number of times they have been right is hard to ignore. This makes the possibility of more predictions coming true in 2026 both exciting and terrifying. In this article, we will explore some of the most famous examples from the past, and look at what the show might be warning us about in the near future. By the end, you may not look at this cartoon the same way again. One of the strangest and creepiest predictions came from an episode in 1994 called Sweet Seymour Skinner's Bodacious Song. In this episode, the school cafeteria lunch lady, Doris, is seen using a giant barrel of meat labeled assorted horse parts, now with more testicles. At the time, it was just a quick visual gag meant to highlight how bad and questionable school lunches could be. Viewers laughed because it was so over the top, and nobody believed anything like that would happen in real life. But fast forward almost 2 decades later to 2013, and a shocking food scandal broke out across Europe. Tests revealed that food being sold as beef in the United Kingdom, Ireland, and France was actually mixed with horse meat. In some cases, there wasn't even any beef at all, only horse. Supermarkets had to remove products, companies had to apologize, and customers were left horrified about what they had been eating. The scandal was so big that it made international headlines and was covered by news outlets like the BBC non-stop. Suddenly, that old Simpsons joke about horse meat didn't seem funny anymore. People went back to the episode and realized the show had featured almost the exact same thing nearly 20 years before it happened. While it's true that the writers probably didn't know about the future scandal, the connection was eerie. It raised questions about how often the Simpsons' strange humor ends up reflecting reality. If something as specific and odd as horse meat in food could become real, then what about the other predictions? Fans started wondering if these jokes might actually be subtle warnings. Another shocking example came from 1990 in an episode called 2 Cars in Every Garage and 3 Eyes on Every Fish. In the story, Bart goes fishing near the nuclear power plant and pulls out a strange orange fish with 3 eyes. The townspeople name the fish Blinky, and it quickly becomes a symbol of how the power plant is polluting the environment. At the time, this was seen as a satirical joke about nuclear waste and how dangerous it could be for nature. The image of Blinky the fish became one of the most famous symbols in Simpsons history. Nobody thought it was possible in real life, until years later something shocking happened. In 2011, a fisherman in Argentina caught a real 3-eyed fish in a reservoir close to a nuclear power plant in Córdoba. The fish looked almost exactly like Blinky, and people were stunned by the similarity. Photos of it spread quickly on the internet, and the story became worldwide news. Over the next few years, more unusual cases followed. A 3-eyed catfish was caught in Brooklyn, and another was found in New York State. Scientists admitted that pollution and radiation could sometimes cause mutations, but they also said such cases were extremely rare. Still, the fact that these real-life fish appeared in polluted waters made the Simpsons episode feel like a prediction rather than just a joke. Fans once again said, "The Simpsons did it first." This incident added more fuel to the idea that the cartoon somehow knows what's coming. The 3-eyed fish was no longer just a cartoon character. It became a reminder of how closely fiction and reality sometimes overlap. Back in 1994, long before smartphones existed, The Simpsons aired an episode called Lisa on Ice. In one scene, Bully Dolph is shown holding a device called the Newton, which was an early version of a digital assistant by Apple. Dolph tries to write the phrase, "beat up Martin" on the screen, but the device automatically changes it to "Eat up, Martha." This was a joke about how unreliable early text prediction technology could be. At the time, the Newton was real, but very few people owned one, and it was widely criticized for its poor handwriting recognition. What nobody realized was that this silly moment would later become a major reality. When smartphones took over in the 2000s and 2010s, autocorrect became one of the most frustrating features of texting. People would try to send simple messages, only to have their phones completely change the meaning. Entire websites and social media pages were created to collect funny and embarrassing autocorrect mistakes. Phrases like "Eat up, Martha" became legendary examples of technology gone wrong. Apple itself even admitted that the Newton joke was painfully close to what many iPhone users experienced in real life. This prediction stood out because it wasn't about politics or world events, but about everyday life. It showed that The Simpsons had an unusual ability to imagine how technology might evolve and how people would react to it. The writers weren't inventing the future, but their humor captured something that later became a global experience. To this day, when people complain about autocorrect messing up their texts, some still say The Simpsons predicted this. It has become a cultural touchstone and a reminder of how the show's smallest jokes sometimes become reality. One of the most talked about predictions happened in 2012 with the episode Lisa Goes Gaga. In this story, the famous singer Lady Gaga visits Springfield and performs an over-the-top concert. She is shown flying above the audience, suspended in midair, wearing a shiny silver outfit with high boots. Fans at the time laughed because it seemed like a parody of Gaga's famously wild performances. But just 5 years later, in 2017, Lady Gaga performed at the Super Bowl halftime show, and the scene looked almost exactly like the Simpsons version. She descended from the roof of the stadium wearing a glittering silver outfit and boots while floating above the audience on wires. The similarity between the cartoon and reality was uncanny. Videos comparing the two performances went viral, and millions of people were shocked to see how closely the prediction matched. This wasn't just a vague idea of Gaga performing at a big event. It was nearly frame-by-frame accurate. Even Lady Gaga herself admitted that she was aware of the Simpsons episode and thought it was funny how closely it matched her show. While some might argue that Gaga's real-life performance could have been influenced by the cartoon, fans pointed out that her entire act was already known for being wild and creative, so it's unlikely she was copying. This moment once again fueled the theory that The Simpsons can somehow see into the future. If they could perfectly capture one of the biggest music events of the decade years in advance, what else might they have already shown us that could happen soon? The Lady Gaga prediction remains one of the most famous examples of the show's strange accuracy. Another shocking prediction came from the 2014 episode You Don't Have to Live Like a Referee. In the story, Homer becomes a referee at the World Cup after being recruited by an international soccer official. During the episode, the show makes jokes about bribery and corruption within FIFA, the governing body of world football. At the time, some fans thought this was just a funny exaggeration because FIFA had long been criticized for shady behavior. But only 1 year later, in 2015, a massive scandal exploded when the U.S. Department of Justice charged several FIFA executives with corruption, money laundering, and bribery. The scandal shook the sports world and led to arrests, resignations, and long investigations. It was one of the biggest controversies in sports history, and The Simpsons had jokingly portrayed it before it happened. Even more amazing, the episode also hinted that Germany would win the World Cup. At that time, the tournament hadn't taken place yet, but just a few months later, in 2014, Germany did in fact win the World Cup in Brazil. Fans were stunned. The prediction was not just about corruption. It also nailed the outcome of the championship. This example showed how The Simpsons had gone beyond simple humor and touched on global events with shocking accuracy. While some say the writers were simply making fun of FIFA's already bad reputation, the timing and details were so precise that it added to the mystery. The prediction continues to be one of the strongest pieces of evidence that the show's writers are unusually skilled at seeing where the world is heading. Another prediction that left people speechless came from the year 2000 in an episode titled Bart to the Future. In this story, Lisa becomes the President of the United States after Donald Trump leaves office. During one scene, Lisa is seen wearing a purple jacket and pearl necklace while addressing the nation about the difficult financial problems left behind by the previous administration. When Donald Trump actually became president in 2016, people remembered the episode, but it wasn't until Kamala Harris became vice president in 2021 that the comparison became even stronger. Harris wore a nearly identical purple outfit with pearls during her inauguration ceremony. Fans immediately shared side-by-side images of Lisa Simpson and Kamala Harris, pointing out how close they looked. The idea that The Simpsons predicted Trump's presidency was already shocking, but the visual connection to Harris's outfit made it even creepier. It was almost as if the cartoon had drawn her exact look decades before it happened. While clothing choices can sometimes be coincidence, the fact that the show combined Trump's presidency with Lisa's role as a future leader made people believe this was more than chance. Could the show be hinting that Harris might one day become president herself? Many fans believe this prediction hasn't fully played out yet, and 2026 could be the year where more parts of this storyline become real. If that happens, The Simpsons will once again be credited with seeing the future long before anyone else. Back in 1998, The Simpsons aired an episode called Bart Carney. In one scene, the kids are shown playing an advanced virtual reality video game, where they wear helmets and become fully immersed in another world. At the time, VR was a distant dream. Technology was nowhere near ready to create realistic 3D experiences, and the idea seemed like pure science fiction. But fast forward to the 2010s and 2020s, and VR gaming has become one of the fastest-growing areas of technology. Devices like the Oculus Rift, PlayStation VR, and MetaQuest allow players to explore virtual worlds in ways that look very similar to the old Simpsons cartoon. What was once a gag about futuristic gaming has now become a billion-dollar industry. Even more interesting, the rise of the metaverse has made people wonder if we are moving toward the kind of virtual worlds The Simpsons once joked about. While VR is still not perfect, it continues to improve each year. By 2026, many experts believe it will become a normal part of entertainment, business, and even education. If that happens, then The Simpsons' early vision of people living inside virtual games may become our everyday reality. Once again, a simple cartoon joke has turned into a glimpse of the future. Fans of the show now wonder whether even wilder ideas, like brain implants or holograms, might one day come true too. Another area where The Simpsons may have been ahead of its time is artificial intelligence. In several episodes, including Treehouse of Horror Tweened in 2001, Homer is given a robot assistant called Pierce Brosnan, who eventually tries to kill him. While this was played for laughs, it reflected the growing fear that AI could become dangerous. At that time, AI was still something mostly discussed in science fiction books and movies. But now in the 2020s, AI has become part of everyday life. From self-driving cars to smart assistants like Siri and Alexa, machines are becoming smarter and more human-like. Many people are worried about what this means for jobs, privacy, and even safety. Scientists like Elon Musk and Stephen Hawking have warned that AI could become too powerful if not controlled properly. When fans look back at The Simpsons, they see the robot assistant as another prediction that may be unfolding before our eyes. If AI continues to advance at the current speed, by 2026 we may see even more lifelike robots and advanced systems making decisions for humans. Once again, it feels like The Simpsons already knew what was coming. The line between fiction and reality is getting thinner, and people can't help but wonder if the writers had some secret knowledge of future trends. After looking at all these examples, it is clear why so many people believe The Simpsons can predict the future. From politics to technology to world events, the show has gotten too many things right for it to be ignored. Some of these predictions are funny, while others are unsettling. As we move closer to 2026, fans are watching carefully to see which storylines might come true next. Will Kamala Harris step into the presidency? Will artificial intelligence reach a level that makes us question human control? Could another world event shock us just as the show